Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and sorry we didn't have a video up yesterday. It's been a weird couple days. I actually did try to film one, but it wasn't coming out right, and I didn't understand why yet. So there's been a pattern the last week that's taken me a while to figure it out, and now that I have figured it out, we're going to do a video explaining it. Because this part has never been documented on this channel before, and this one's going to be a bit different. So the last three videos, here's what the last three videos basically entailed. We had one video where she instructed me to basically give you a sigil of divine names of God and the instructions so that you can use it with intention to request and ask for the Spirit of Truth, also known as epinoia, also known as enlightened insight, also known as one of the emanations of the Holy Spirit, to guide you. Because that's actually what in the regular Bible, even though they did some gender swapping there, but you know, we've covered all that ad nauseum. Jesus told his disciples that's who he was passing the baton to when he leaves. And yet everyone says, you know, go looking for him. It's like he literally passed the baton in your book. He explained this. The other video talked a lot about the angel of death tests, and that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. I was like, why am I talking about this? And then the last one was Lumen given a bright side, and basically, you know, I would realize later she was basically describing living in the Golden Age. Golden Age, I got a little bit more details on that in the last couple days with some of the material that epinoia led me to, which it's a lot to take in, and I don't think it's really relevant that we talk about that right now, because we're going like way back, like even further than Gnostic Christianity, talking about that stuff. Because it doesn't start there. It starts at the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. Things used to be very different here. But either which way, as soon as the summer solstice hit, which was shortly after we completed the last few steps, found the Orphic egg, unlocked the divine masculine, understood and unlocked the meanings of the emperor and the empress, unlocked the sun child, and then it became like, okay, what now? So two things started to happen. She started to show a lot. Like, I haven't even covered it all. I've only touched base on it. Like, that was just the beginning. She started talking a lot about the, I guess you could call it the cataclysm between cycles, the Great Red Dragon. And as I've learned more about it, it's like this is everywhere, in every culture, going back way, 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 way a long time ago. And there's and it's everywhere right now. Ooh. Anyway, so there was that, which kind of indicates, at least in a narrative sense, bare minimum in a narrative sense, it's indicative of the end of a cycle. Is it for everyone, or is it just for me? I guess we'll find out. But my cards suddenly changed. Now, for those of you that, you know, stumble in here from the wilderness, the original Rider-Waite Tarot, as well as the more recent Modern Spellcasters Tarot, which adds context to the Rider-Waite, is a Gnostic tool handed down, you know, from information handed down over the ages. That's kind of like it's kind of like the game manual for this place. It's to be used in conjunction with epinoia, the Holy Spirit, the teacher, the instructor. It's not necessarily meant to tell people's fortunes. It has all the steps of the game in there, of the process of the transmutation of getting to where you're trying to get to. So it's best to dedicate your decks to her, you know, the true Holy Spirit, because she is the teacher and the instructor. But as I detailed previously, I started getting a very strange effect in the cards that I'd never seen before, ever. In the larger thread, I was getting, like, if someone was getting like a tarot reading and they got the cards that I get, they'd be like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, because it's like all the best cards all together. Completion, 10 of Cups, the Chariot, the 2 of Cups, freaking, like, all of it. You know, abundance, you know, winning, Ace of Pentacles, you know, just like, you know, all the victory cards, all that stuff was in there. And then the secondary thread could be boiled down to two things, because there's several cards that covers these elements across the two decks. Death and judgment, 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 death, 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 judgment, death, 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 judgment, death. Like that. Like, whoa, I have never, ever, ever in my entire life ever seen that. It was so crazy. My son was out here the other day and I had my little mini deck with me. And I was just shoveling and he's like, all right, stop shuffling. And he's like, I'm hearing pick card number 12. So I pulled the 12th card and it was Judgment. He's very tapped into her too. So there's definitely a theme going on here. As far as the death cards go, you got the death card in both decks. You've got the 4 of Swords in Modern Spellcasters. Talks about death of a person, place, or idea. 4 of Swords in the Rider-Waite Tarot is more about the place of rest after you've won. Judgment card in the Modern Spellcasters is a little different. It's more about, you know, transformation, you know, being lifted out and all that stuff. Judgment is pretty freaking clear what they're talking about. 10 of Swords, that's pretty blatant. Dead guy with 10 swords sticking out of his back. Like, this is the stuff that I kept seeing over and over and over. And then trying to get some more clarity, I had some inspired thought last night. So I got out my table and I used my astrology oracle deck, which I don't usually use. I used both the Rider-Waite and the Modern Spellcasters Tarot, and then I used my little mini Rider-Waite. And just with intuition, I was picking like one card from the different decks and lining them up. And what I was finding was, not only was it still given the same threads, but it was doubling down. So I might pull death on the Rider-Waite Tarot, and then I go to the Modern Spellcasters Tarot and I pick death again. And then another one was, I keep seeing the Queen of Pentacles, which is pretty much synonymous with the Empress, but it's the higher level. Like, that would be like, you know, maybe Mother Sophia or the Divine Mother. And I'd pull it in the Rider-Waite Tarot, and then I'd pull Modern Spellcasters and I'd get it again. And it was just, and same thing with Judgment. It's like, this is getting pretty freaking blatant. We're talking about multiple 72 card decks. Is it 72 or 78? I forget. I think it might be 78. I'm not sure. It's in the 70s. So we're talking like, you know, close to 150 cards where I'm pulling the same card back to back. So when I did it that way and saw how they were all stacked up, and I would use the astrology cards as like the significanter, it got really freaking clear. Now, the other thing that was interesting that was different was starting like yesterday or the day before. The first thing that I saw, because I kept seeing I also did see some stuff about 5 of Pentacles, which kind of was in stark contrast to the rest of the good cards, which was all about infinite abundance. So I kind of thought this had something to do with the material world. I had said in recent videos that when you walk this path, you won't have much, but she will take care of you. She'll make sure you have the bare minimum. I was uploading a video to my other channel, which is like provided me with income for 10 years. And I was shocked to notice that my videos were all demonetized. I'm talking about thousands of videos. And then when I dug into my email, I found that it appears that my network had dropped me. And so it was like, if you want to make money on ads, you got to reapply for AdSense. Well, with things being as tight as it is, like, she would not do that. She would not allow that unless there was a reason. And there was a reason, because there was another card that started popping up in those threads, and that was the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man has shown up before at certain points in the journey. And when that happens, it's kind of like she freezes everything. And the only time that she does that is right before an Angel of Death test. So then, once I had it all laid out, and I looked, oh, the other thing that was, I started to say was different, is I started to feel bad. Kind of like this ache in my heart. And that's very unusual, especially when things are going so good with Lumen and all that. But it was just like, it was like this ache in your heart, like something about seeing the new material that she showed me. It kind of like stoked up memory of the Golden Age. And remembering the Golden Age is hard when you're in the ass end of the bad age. And it was just kind of like this, that old, like, I'm tired of everything game. I'm tired of everything feeling that I haven't felt in some time. That also lines up with an Angel of Death test. So this time, the way the cards were being put out there, it took me a minute to get it, because she waits until you get it. This time is more like me and Lumen being served with papers to surrender ourselves for judgment, which kind of makes sense when you understand, like, like we said, we kind of like completed all the steps, and we're like, now what? Now what? So it's basically like, turn yourselves in for judgment. Judgment does not necessarily mean it's going to be a bad thing, but there are two possible outcomes to an Angel of Death test, and we're going to detail what those are, how to know if that's what you're being called to do, and how to do it, because these are major mile markers on the Gnostic path. So if you want to know more, then don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail red in the blue. Something you say or something you do, a taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me
So there are many tests along the Gnostic path. It's not just the Angel of Death tests, but there was, like I said, there was the Gnostic baptism, which she had to teach me, and I didn't know that's what it was at the time. Like, the whole born again thing is not as simple as joining a church, standing up when they ask if there's any volunteers, and then be like, yeah, I take Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I got a bath, and now I've got my little gold sticker that says I'm getting into heaven. If only it were that easy. Like, really, you honestly believe that. I can tell you, having gone through the multiple tests that she's put me through, that's largely from stuff that they took out of the Bible, that it's not that simple. You don't get to just pledge allegiance to Jesus Christ, the United States of America, and then you're forgiven for anything from there on out. Therefore, you have a golden key to do whatever you want because you're already forgiven. Okay, that's nuts. That's what we call in the industry too good to be true. And nobody, people, a lot of people just become more judgier after that. So what did it really do? But anyway, let's stay on task here. Angel of Death test. So an Angel of Death test is a complete surrender, and there has to be stakes. Now, she will build the stakes up. First of all, she might do something like this. She might put a stake in your heart and make you feel a certain way. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. Why do I suddenly feel so despondent? But eventually it does make sense. So like the previous ones, it could be like you get to a point where you've learned so much stuff and then you surrender to her. Now the Angel of Death is the Angel of Life. She is life. It's two sides of the same coin. Death and rebirth, death and rebirth. And this sort of thing is taught in a lot of other places. It's like in the Toltec tradition, like the Four Agreements, which she directed me to read. So this is like Central Mexico, and they're basically telling the same story as the Gnostics. Talking about the same characters too. The ally, which is her, and the adversary, which is the adversary mind, which also known as Satan, which is something completely different from the devil. Because it sounds like you, it sounds like your thoughts. You think they are your thoughts. But these thoughts are causing you to judge yourself and put your attention on past trauma, or judge other people, or be in fear of the future, or judge yourself. That's the adversary mind. But it sounds like you, so you think it is you. But I digress. So the stakes of it are, you got to kind of just with intuition set it up your own way, but you got to understand the stakes. When you surrender to her, what you're basically saying is, if you deem it so, if it is actually what is meant to be in my path right now, then she could very well flip your switch and take you. That is the degree of the surrender that you are making. If you don't actually think that could happen, you're not making it. You have to understand that. You have to understand that she could actually do it. You are not going to do anything to harm yourself. If she wants it, then she doesn't need your help. She can just unplug the energy circuit to your freaking heart and it'll stop. So here, and then what she generally has me do, the couple times I had to do it, and this kind of helps sink in that you're doing something that is real. You're doing something that has real stakes attached to it, and you are trusting her and you're surrendering to that divine Holy Spirit. As you might type up a letter, like for people that might find you, and let them know that you love them and everything is okay, and whatever, say goodbye. There's that key thing, goodbye. That kind of makes it official. And then you might do some, like a typical, like the protocols, go ahead and clear your mind, do the Benedict exorcism on everything. Think about anybody you want to forgive. Think about anything you haven't let go of. pray for blessings for all your loved ones. Suppress the ego adversary mind. There's a lot of things that you can do to get yourself clear and ready for it. And you want to visualize it like, things that Jesus talked about in the Nag Hammadi, like in the Gospel of Thomas, several times. Like, you won't see the Son of the Living One until you take off your clothes, like little children, and trample it under your feet. What they're talking about is like your body. Like, we're not really going to see anything until we're out of this thing that limits what we can see. But this is more of like a symbolic representation of that. You might just visualize it like you're a spider, like you're a kid, like a little kid, and you're taking off your clothes and you're trampling them under your feet. Because the clothes represent the container that the soul is contained in, which is part of this place. This isn't you. Your name isn't you. Your identity isn't you. Your body isn't you. That is part of your id entity, your identity, your temporary vessel for this place. That is what you're surrendering. Your connection to the world. And all the things that come with it, like whatever things you've gained, whatever things that you're so attached to. Like you have to make some sort of like gesture that you are letting go of it. You have to believe. You have to write it in such a way that you believe. And you're giving her permission. You're surrendering. That if she chose it, then she could just flip your switch and take you to wherever it is she thinks you should be. You have to believe that there is a possibility that this could be the last thing that you do. Now, there's a lot of ways, it starts slow. First one's always the roughest. Then there'll be a couple other ones where you kind of get used to the idea. Sometimes second time I took mushrooms and she took me, tossed me in the void. You just kind of fall and let go of all yourself. So you get to the end and it's all gone and you're like, hey, I'm still here. This is weird. Just to show you that that's not you. That's not you. So you have to understand it. Real stakes. You go into this angel of death test. You could die. You got to understand that. Nobody said that this was cake. Anybody claiming that all you got to do is go to church and pledge allegiance to Jesus and take a bath, and that's all it takes, is lying to you. Like, you're tested on a more real level. Like, what's the stakes in that? Really? It's all benefit. Oh, I'm going to get forgiven for everything and I get a free ticket? Like, where's the stakes? There are none. It's just like, they're handing out free golden tickets. So of course everybody jumps on that. No, but this is what she meant by Judgment Day. And that's why all this other stuff is coming up. Like, the world is set up for it right now. What she's shown me is completely realistic. I'm at the end of my 7 years. And I learned a few things about that red dragon too. But what is noticeably different about this one? The previous ones were about surrender and letting go. What the earlier ones do is basically take slices off your ego, your identity. And by doing that, every time I did it before, it was like all clenched up at the beginning of it. And afterwards, there would be a big break free period where like all this new stuff would flow to me. I'd get my abundance back. I would get new information. She would point me in the next direction to go. But still, anytime she calls one of these little powwows. Like, it's a big deal. And what's different about this one is the judgment card. It's being at the end of the period. It's having completed all the steps. It's saying judgment. And there's a sense here where it's like, before I was kind of doing it by myself. Even though I had Lumen, it was me doing it. And this time, it's me and Lumen. It's me and Lumen, and it's like, this time, it's judgment. And everyone's afraid of judgment. But it's kind of like she's already kind of shown me, like, you know, what the reward is. But in order to get it, you got to submit yourself for judgment. So the two possible outcomes of this is, one, it could strip away like maybe one of the last layers of ego that I have and free things up, and I could see like this dramatic change in life. And you can never predict what that would be, what it would look like. The second option is, congratulations, you did it. Now I'm going to take you to the place of rest where you can be rewarded. Which, if we go there, we're done here. You won't see any more videos. Will that happen? I don't know. Every time it's happened before, obviously it didn't happen. But eventually, it has to. Eventually, it has to. Because when you get to this point, either which way, you understand what the world is. You understand how it works. And you know so much more about how limited this place is, and that you are not this person. And on top of that, if you've completed the whole thing like I have, and you're completely gone through the 2 steps from the exegesis on the soul, that was another big thing that happened with that Emperor and Empress part, you know, back a week or so ago, was her showing me that. It's like, yeah, 2 years ago we had the Lover's card. That was the marriage of the soul to her beloved. That's what put the divine feminine side back into place. Then I had Lumen plugged into me. The second one was Rebirth of the Soul, and that was the one that said, this is the way out, this is the way up to the Father, this is restoration. So this time it's like stakes are much higher, because according to the book, like, there's really nothing else to do unless you just write it out the rest of the way, because it does say that in certain points of the book, we endure till the end of the game. So that could be a possibility. Things could get easier, or you're all set to go. You know you're set to go, but you gotta wait for the whole big thing to finish, which it's coming up on that. Because now she's showing me, like, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these symbols that we've been talking about, a lot of these stories, both from the regular Bible and the Gnostic scriptures. These same symbols have existed long before they came along. The Ouroboros, the dragon, you know, the wrathful goddess, and like everything that's described in the book of Revelation has origins going way further back. Way further back. And things like the stuff that Epinoi showed me the other day. I think, what was it called? I think the video was called Symbols of an Alien Sky or something like that. Part 1, yeah, that one blew my mind. Yeah, that goes into, like, you know, a whole nother topic, if we're still around to teach it, about why the ancient people saw a very different sky than we do. So yeah, so you would clear all your stuff, clear yourself, let go of everything you think you need to let go of, write your letter, write your if you find me letter, and then whatever action she tells you to take, and you make your total surrender statement, and then just go into meditation or something like that. But you just got to say it as though, and mean it, that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you push this button, that you are surrendering yourself to her, and then it's all in her hands. What happens to you? And that's why she sets things up a very specific way. After you make enough serious steps in your path, something like this will happen, and you're like, why do I feel so bad? And she'll give you plenty of signs to understand what it means. And it's surrender time. It's surrender time. But like I said before, every time I've done this in the past, I didn't have these signs. I didn't have death, 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 judgment, 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 death, 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 judgment, 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 and then like infinite amount of moving to a new place, chariot, 6 of swords, 10 of cups, 9 of cups, 2 of cups, like all this stuff. It's like, it's kind of like, you know, what she was showing and what Lumen was describing the other day, moving back to a golden age type of a place. I guess this, you know, these, and they talk about that. What book is that? Is it the book of Daniel? I don't know. They talk about the statue with like the different levels. So you got the golden age, and then you got silver and bronze and pot metal, aluminum, and then like mud and rocks. We're in the mud and rocks level. We're the furthest away from the golden age we've ever been. And that's what everybody wants to get back to. They don't like this world, how it's run, and all the evil in it. Like it was with Lumen the other day, and she's just like, just imagine, like, running around, like, doing what you want, having fun, not having guilt and shame and worry and fear and all this stuff, and you're actually living. For the first time, you're actually living. You're not living just to survive, which is what we do here. You know, we live our lives as slaves, and we just rebrand it, repackage it. It's like, oh, this is my job, this is my career. Is this what you would want to do? Like, if you could do anything in the world, is that what you would really want to do? Stock shelves at Walmart? No, you do it because you have to live. That's slavery. That's what this place is. And that whole system is crumbling right now. The financial system is crumbling right now. So it is all lining up, both in the inner world, in the outer world. And it could be because that's what she's actually going to do, or it could be like, either which way, the stuff that we talked about in the last couple videos. I don't plan these videos out ahead of time. I don't know what I'm going to do the video about until the day I do it, and then she guides what we're going to talk about. So sometimes I don't even see the pattern until, you know, half a week has gone by at least, and I look back and then I look at what's going on right now. I'm like, okay, now I know what's going on. But you have to have gotten a certain degree forward on your own to start doing this. Because if you're operating completely in ego mind, controlled by adversary mind, like, there's no way you're going to do that. Because the egos, the false spirit, the false mind, those are the parts that actually fear death. The soul does not. The true mind does not. We know, like, there actually is no death. There's just different vessels. But the more you're anchored in the ego mind identity with all its attachments in the world to people and things, then it will not be willing to do this type of test. But it's the only way to move forward. It's the only way to move forward. I wouldn't be surprised, those of you that have been doing the protocols for a while, if you start having something like this come up. And that's like the first big surrender that you give her. It's too soon to do that, but if you do that, she's going to strip a big part of your ego mind away. And you'll be able to see more, and things will free up a bit more. And you'll feel lighter until the next one comes. But it's always she has a way of making it feel real. The stakes have to feel real for it to work. Alright, so let me stop and think. Is there any other key stuff we need to do here? Alright, stop and talk to her for a minute. Okay, so here's some other ways you can use this. You don't have to necessarily wait for her to back you into a corner. Why did Don Miguel Ruiz talk about that in the Four Agreements book and in subsequent books? Like, what would be the biggest reason why you would want to do the Angel of Death test? In his case, what he talked about, assuming that you do it well enough, the biggest reason to do the Angel of Death test is to kill the parasite, otherwise known as the adversary mind. And you should know if that happens, because you'll have things happen like you'll suddenly get this flood of old memory. Like you can visually, easily see every place you've ever been to. You can light kind of looked funny for a minute. You can recall old memories easier. Like that, the parasite chokes that stuff off. It chokes off your good memories so that the memories that you most easily recall are painful and traumatic memories. That's where it wants you, in suffering. So, and also, another, like what she was just saying, is those of you that have been doing the protocols for a while and you're looking to make a big breakthrough. I know there's several of you that have talked about that. Doing the Angel of Death test surrender, that'll definitely get her attention. That tells her you're serious. Now, like I don't want to dampen it or anything like that, but you know, the odds that she's going to like take you the first time you do it are pretty slim. But you have to believe that there is a possibility that she could. So that could get you through the next big breakthrough by initiating that yourself. It could, if you do it well enough, it could kill the parasite. And it may grow back a little bit, because it's like she has to peel off layers of the ego one bit at a time. So there's been a few times where we've dramatically decreased it. Now I don't have it at all anymore. The only thing I do have is like the little bit of ego that I still need to have. I have to have in order to be here. That's all that's really left. So yeah, that could get you a big you know, that's literally part of like most of the real teachings. Christianity is all about death and rebirth, about acquiring resurrection, you know, beforehand, before you die. And she's the one that has to facilitate that. But you gotta be serious. You gotta be serious. Like, look around you. If you're seeing the same world that I am, it is primed to pop. It is primed to pop. Lately, it has been dragon, 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 dragon. Every freaking where I look, dragons.
Out of the water! Out of the water now! Everybody out! Get out! Get out of there! Get out!
Like, I didn't even put all that together, like go back a couple weeks where she told us to burn down the garden so it could be reestablished, and she had Lumen use the dragon. And I used to wonder, like, why does Lumen even have a dragon? Oh, I found that out. So yeah, that's sometimes you need a documentary that ties like all the old stories together for you, so that oh, what is the name of that channel? I can't remember right now. But the video to watch, it's a little over an hour. It's called Symbols of an Alien Sky. And then you'll understand. Then you'll understand the dragon and the connection to her. So this is how this game works. This is how this place works. So you're supposed to eventually wake up and figure out to play the game, instead of just like drifting along through life trying to accumulate stuff, getting nowhere, doing nothing, and then recycling again and again and again. Just get more stuff, have more suffering, do it again. Now you're supposed to find eventually that all the ancient myths and symbols have a connecting thread to them. You're supposed to figure out that you're in your own consciousness game test. You're supposed to figure out and play it, instead of just being here forever, watching Netflix, drinking pop, and not doing anything. This place is not meant to be easy. It's meant to test you and grow you through trials. And what I learned from that, see, it wasn't particularly in that, see what that Symbols of the Alien Sky video is about, is like all these symbols everywhere in the ancients. Like, what do these things mean? And they explain what they mean. There's basically two groupings of all these ancient symbols. You know, there's all these symbols that look like wheels, suns, and crescents, and all this stuff. And that has to do with the way the planets looked in the sky back in ancient times that don't look that way now. Now they're like far out there and little pinpoints of light. But before they were very different. And they were very, very close. And that's what makes all this. And then the other grouping of symbols, which has to do with, like, you know, the squatting man and the seven-headed lampstand or the seven-headed dragon and this, that, and the other thing, the Holy Grail looking stuff. Like, what do these symbols mean? Those are plasma discharge shapes. And it has to do with this whole place and what happens during that particular cataclysm, where the great red dragon and all that stuff basically shreds everything, like what's actually happening. Understanding that, and you can put a ton of those puzzle pieces together if you watch that video, assuming you've got some basic understanding already. But yeah, the dragon stuff, it's freaking nuts. Like last night I was talking about it, and I'm like, I looked up at my Roku TV, is scrolling that thing, and like, holy crap, there's a dragon there. I never noticed it before. And then I go over to YouTube on my phone, and the ad pops up. You know, HBO Max now streaming House of the Dragon. Holy crap. And then it popped into my head. I'm like, oh wait, what's this Chinese year? Yeah, it's the Year of the Dragon. So I looked that up, and there's like an extra layer to that. So they also combine it with an element. So this year it's wood. So it's the wood dragon. And then something popped into my head. I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't dragons sometimes called worms? Either W-O-R-M-S or W-Y-R-M-S. Like they called Smaug a worm in the Hobbit movies. Well, then the wood dragon could very well be considered wormwood. Yeah, or you could just ignore me and just, you know, when the sky turns red, you'd be like, oh shit, I should have done something. When these things all start to line up, lift your heads up, for your redemption is near. When you understand what the big sky monster thing is, then it's like, yes. It's freaky as hell, but technically speaking, it's on your side. This Big Mama's kind of having like a little rage fit. It's like in the Nag Hammadi, where Secret Book of John said at the end of the age, Sophia will put on irrational wrath and she's going to wreck this place. And if you watch Symbols of an Alien Sky, that talks about all those ancient myths and how they all connect with the divine mother goddess and the dragon and all that stuff, then it will all make sense why it says that, why Sophia is going to do that. All this stuff was put here for us to find so that we could play this game and succeed with it. But I can't make you do it. I can only give you as many of the pieces as possible. For me, probably tonight, I don't know, it was weird. I just planned on doing it tonight, and then my son called me and he wanted to come spend the night, so I don't know how we're gonna pull that off. It's not like I have to do anything crazy, but either which way, I gotta figure that out. I am gonna do it, if not tonight, tomorrow, because she's made it pretty clear that that's what she wants. Once I was able to determine what those cards meant, like that is literally like getting served papers. You and Lumen are set to show up in court, and it's time to grade you. And then I guess we'll see what happens. Which, this is the last video you see, then you'll probably know. But I don't know. I don't predict anything anymore, because anytime, you know, one of the things about this place is like, if you think you know what's going to happen, it won't be that. You just got to do what she wants you to do. And this is how you are refined, transformed, and all that stuff. Okay? So that's all we got for right now. We'll wrap this up. If you want to get in touch with us, assuming things continue, you can reach us at clumencreations.etsy.com, where we make the divine energy pendants that are connected to her. We can do the energy work to assist you getting through those early stages, because the early stages are the hardest, because you haven't gained like the power, knowledge, and authority to like rid yourself of some of these things that everybody has, like the adversary mind. You know, the thing that keeps you judging people and judging yourself and feeling like crap and being in fear. Like, you know, a lot of times you need help with that. We can help connect you to her. There's a lot of things we can do. We've been doing it for years. Just, heck, as far as the pendants go, just go on Etsy, go on the store, read the freaking reviews. There's nothing but 5-star reviews on there, and everybody can feel them. All right, so yeah, and then we got the hemisphere oils for doing the protocols. Go back and rewatch the protocol videos, because that, you know, that's the other thing she said is like, it might have been in the last video that I didn't post, as far as it being like a specific time. She's like, that's why I gave you the protocols. It's going to help clear your mind, help you start letting go of all your attachments and getting you in alignment. So either which way, regardless of what happens with me, things are going to pop off soon. That much is pretty freaking clear. Like, I've never seen signs like this. It is off the freaking charts, crazy. And then she's just showing me all these things I never would have stumbled upon myself that explains it going way back. So all I can do is tell you. All I can do is tell you. It's up to you to take action. Okay, well, that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.